because all this is great. Companies shouldn't keep more than what they actually need to. Where I have a big concern is for those people, that want to eventually opt out. Then what happens to a Facebook, a Twitter, whatever, when they say, okay, no problem, but then you have to pay this type of monthly charge? Because the California Consumer Privacy Act allows the opportunity for them to opt out, to not sell their personal data. Forget about how broad it is, because unless you have your own static IP address, I don't think an IP address should be considered PII data according to this, because that IP address is actually owned by a third party entity. But how many people are going to start flipping out when Facebook says, okay, you want to use Facebook, but it's going to cost you $100 a month, because that's my lost revenue. So, or you don't get to use Facebook.
Yeah. See, this is the issue I have when I was thinking about this, and this ties into some of my whole privacy view to begin with. But right, this is an intermediary to an intermediary, maybe. This is the giant flaw that I don't think a lot of people, not enough people, are focusing on, is this opt-in, opt-out structure, right? There's a number of problems, one of which you just hit on. I'll illustrate another one here in a second. When you allow an opt-out architecture, that is, opt-in is by default. To opt out, I have to give you PII. Because otherwise, how are you pairing me with a data set? And so if I want my data set excluded, I have to give you more, maybe potentially than you already have, personal information. Well, where are you keeping that? Is that included in the data set that's being excluded? Because it has to be on record.
That's the part about the actual act. That part is excluded from the act. It actually talks about that and says they're allowed to give data to be able to identify you that they cannot tell you.
That's right. And here's why. Speaking as somebody that lived in California for 20 years, a lot of the legislature in that state is oriented around future legal liability. And that's not exclusive to California, but California is uniquely aware of that, right? This is why on every building in California, you see the little sign, this building may cause cancer because it has blue paint or some bullshit, right? And that's why. Because just by walking in, you have to see that sign, and by seeing it and going in the door, you've absolved whoever owns that commercial property from legal liability. 100% true, right? And so that's how I read that. Like, well, wait a minute. You're going to make me give you something that you have already deemed valuable in your business model so that I can exclude the stuff that you already collected, and I gave you willingly, fair enough, but you get to keep that. But
they can't sell it. Right. I mean, that's the, it doesn't, that's the part to me where this kind of thing gets, one, they have to provide a privacy notice that no one reads, which gets back to your aspect of California, the California piece about future, liability. But that this is what they're doing. Like, at what point, why do we need legislature to tell us and protect us from what we already know? It's the same way I go with seatbelts. You don't want to wear a seatbelt for your own fun. You know what? You're taking your life in your own hand. You're foolish to not use that. You're using the internet. There's no expectation of privacy. So,
that's why I would suggest if somebody out there wants to create a new social media platform to take over at least a significant amount of the market from, let's say, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, what the fuck ever, right? Here's how you do it. You don't try to replicate what they have and keep it private. No, you do the exact opposite. You make it open and transparent. You continue to monetize all the data that people opt into, because opt-out is by default, and then you co-opt the revenue. If you're gonna opt in and give me your data that I'm gonna turn around and use as a revenue stream, I'm gonna give you a percentage cut of that since it's your data. Why not?
Yeah.
That's how I would do it. Fuck it. It may fail, but man, I think that's the way to go. It's worth a try. Nobody's doing it.
I can't remember there's another social media network that I think might be called Minds. Don't quote me on that, but that has that type of model where you show up and you start opting into things, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Remember it used to be called Cyber Dust? It was a messaging app, and now it's just called Dust. There's a certain amount of social activity based on that, and again, you're opting in. I think if you're going to talk about privacy, and it's balanced with what I believe to be silly and onerous like legal oversight, for the sake of saying, oh, we, in the future, somebody might get mad at me. Because you remove somebody's ability to take ownership of themselves. You give somebody, hey, it's somebody else's fault. Can't be my fault because I'm not stupid, right? And that's how these dumb laws become. It's like, hey, I've got to protect people from their own stupidity, right? But if it starts with, and this is an age-old argument, how do we end up clicking through and saying yes as quickly as we can to everything in terms of services and all those privacy agreements? Why? Because nobody
I did it now.
Right, exactly. And when you've done that, you've made 82 page this, 22 page that, or whatever. You're encouraging people to close their eyes and just go, trust me, I'm doing the right thing. When I was at Blackbird, one of the things we did was we used to pull excerpts out of terms and services. One of us would read the terms and services for every piece of software we advocated somebody install. And on one of these, it wasn't Malwarebytes, but it was one of those little free things to clean up a Windows machine. One of the things that you agreed to was that the guy who developed the software, you agreed that his girlfriend was smoking hot, and it said it in the terms and services like that, right? And I thought, genius, because that's universal, right? Yeah. He didn't specifically say Sally is smoking hot. He said my girlfriend. So for the rest of the time, he can just go, hey, baby, right? And I was like, and
all these people agree.
Yeah, one of the guys he goes, this has got 100 million downloads. 100 million people think you're agreed that you're smoking hot, right? But the net of it was even one of the guys is like, that's simple genius, right? It was because I can, you can agree to anything and you're not going to read it, right? For the most part, it's not malfeasant. But you look at what we did when we were at Simon Circle with the Power Privacy video, that having people read the terms and services out loud elicits humorous responses. My favorite one was that little, the older lady with gray hair, and she's reading and she looks right at the camera and she's like, is this real? And they were like, yeah, we had to bleep it because she was like, this is effed up. Yeah. Right? Your natural response when you actually go to read it is, this is effed up, then we got to make it plain language. And it's got to be, here's my bullet points of 5 things, because most Americans or most people in the world now have the attention span of a 5-year-old on Adderall, right? And jacked up on gummy bears and everything else, right? No, I want that now. Somebody told me TikTok was great. I'm going to just keep doing this as fast as I can until I get TikTok videos coming at me, until Gary Vee explodes my brain with content.
It's fascinating to me as how when you look at social media and the amount of people that will put on their profile that no one has the right to be able to use their image, blah 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 blah. That none of that stuff matters, because you log back in, you've agreed to let them use your stuff all over again. And this is where, as soon as I'm just waiting for someone to tell Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever that I want to opt out, and then they charge them some astronomical number and people go berserk over it.
Right.
They will. I totally agree, dude. 100%. That's what's going to happen.
Because I would. 100%. If I'm Zuckerberg. Oh crap! I hit the camera.
Your camera. There you go, brother.
Yeah. I could never be. I'm just. If someone is going to wind up going berserk, but I would charge them some astronomical numbers, like $10,000, something like that, to where some person is going to I can't afford that, and then they want to sue and all this kind of stuff, and be like, hey, you don't have to use my service. So it's, if you want to use my free service and you want to opt out, then you got to pay me $10,000.
Right. I'm not running. This isn't a 501c3. I'm not running a charity here.
Yeah.
You want to use something for free. I need to make money. And so here's the relationship that we actually have. Right.
Yeah.
And again, I think a lot of it comes down to envy. People go, look, Zuckerberg doesn't help himself out because he comes off like a Bond villain a lot, but he's a billionaire and I'm not. And so he's got to be doing something wrong, because there's no way that he can be that much smarter than me.
As a matter of fact, one step further, if I'm Zuckerberg, I automatically, at midnight tonight, I log everyone out of Facebook. And at the next login, I tell them they have to opt in or opt out. And if they choose to opt out, I immediately put up the thing for how much it's going to cost them if they want to get back into Facebook. Otherwise, I delete all of your data, and I'm completely now in alignment with Facebook, or not Facebook, but the California Privacy Act. And I give you a one-time link that you've got 30 days to download your data. At the end of that 30 days, I've erased everything. And boom.
And it's completely technically feasible to do that.
Yeah, it's simple because Facebook already offers you the way to download all of your data. But now I log everyone out. You either pay me 10 grand a year, and if you say no, you're not able to get in. You've got a link that's valid for 30 days to download your data. At the end of that 30 days, I've deleted everything. Watch
See,
everyone in the world go.
They'll go ape shit.
Yeah.
Because the counter argument then.
I would do it just for the fun of it. The social.
Yeah. Well, see, then the social argument would be, well, you're creating a financially classist system whereby now only the rich can afford to have a social network. It's called a fucking country club, bro.
Yeah.
We've had them since the 1800s.
Well,
Earlier
than that, TK can attest to it.
Well, I was keeping it within the confines of the show.
Of the club that you're in.
Hey, I don't know what you're talking about.
You've talked about it on air.
I know, man. I know. Hey, did I tell you I took an officer spot?
No.
Oh yeah, man. Now I am the junior deacon. So that's the first real chair, it's called, that you can sit in. And so, man, it's kind of fun, dude. You have to memorize all these lines, and there's different things going on. And my big job, I get to guard the door, dude. I have like a big halberd.
Oh,
So you're like the as of right now, you're like
the sergeant at arms.
Well, I was going to more say the most junior Supreme Court justice. He's going to be the one that always answers the door.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
Can you imagine what I think? So it's not what was the last Supreme Court justice? It wasn't Gorsuch. It was what's the last guy that just got nominated to the Supreme Court?
Oh my goodness,
Kavanaugh.
Yeah, Kavanaugh. Right.
Yeah.
So that, in theory,
don't compare me to that slimy fuck.
Well, no, but in theory, like if it wasn't for like so prior to Ginsburg, I can't remember who it was, but that person was like having to open the door every day for like 10 years. Like he could never go anywhere until someone else was nominated.
All right. So to be fair, there's another role that sits in the man trap, and they actually have a sword.
That sounds like a bar.
Yeah. And so that person is actually in charge. Yeah. That person is actually in charge of the door and letting people come in and out. I just manage it from the inside where it's secure. He manages it from the outside where it's insecure.
Yeah, well, this is just, in this case, it's like once they're in, you're just preventing them from leaving until they've been authorized to leave.
Yes, and also removing them if they shouldn't be there.
Right.
Which actually is a big deal, come to find out.
Yeah.
Like,
Who knew?
They came to me and they're like, hey, man, do you want to, because the way it works, so in case anybody that's watching this doesn't understand what we're talking about Freemasonry. And so the way it works is,
that's why I said
there's
founding members.
Yeah. And so you have different officer chairs, they're called, right? And so the idea is that when you come in and you're first able to sit in a chair, you start at the beginning and you work your way through these chairs and to become the master of the lodge. And these are only 1-year terms, and you have to be reappointed or reelected by the body of the lodge, okay? And so it's actually a built-in system of how you learn all the ritual and all the let's say the narrative. And you learn a tremendous amount of it by going through these chairs because of the stuff you have to memorize. And so like when there's different events going on, there's certain roles have certain things to do. And it's just, man, fuck it, dude. Once a month I get to hang out with some guys that I've come to like, and we get to chat about things that aren't contentious like religion or politics. We get to talk about other things.
Nice.
And now I get a big halberd. And I get to challenge people as to why they're there. And if they're not there, I get to remove them.
But do you get to bring the halberd home?
No, it has to stay there, bro.
That's where I'd have to draw the line.
Dan, I want my halberd at home. It's mine. You can't touch it.
Until I am no longer in that role. It's my halberd.
There are many like it, but this one is mine.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, there's 4, and I have one of the 4.
Are there 4 doors?
No.
Do you
No,
all-
but there's just 4 positions.
Oh, you got backup halberds.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
In case you got to send one out for maintenance.
Yeah, no, exactly. Actually, yeah. Because part of my role is to go out and talk to people on the public side, and I have to take the implement in my office with me in case I need to act. And then there's another person that is my backup. So when I walk out, they take my role. And then there's somebody above me that I take their role when they leave. And so there's like this little system built into it.